Okay, we'll stop it there. Welcome to the second episode of Shattered Trinity. And we played music, which you just dropped your jaw to. We've had a lot of information come this week for Guild Wars 2. We've had the PAX going on all weekend with PvP videos, tournaments galore, Alienware streaming the first one, sucking and not streaming the second one. I don't know why. Boo you, Alienware. And we've got more from the PAX panel yesterday to the Community Dev one on Friday, and there's a panel going on later today. We've got PvP information and analysis for you, as well as a whole bunch of other information, especially the recently released information about guilds in Guild Wars 2, which is going to change the way guilds work probably in most games. So I got with you, I am your host, Justin, and along with me we have your host, PAX. He's going to join us today for episode 2, as always. So let's get ourselves started here for a bit. So, Pax, while I'm on you, have you actually taken the time to watch any of the information live or anything from PAX this weekend? Pax?
Yeah, I did manage to fit in some videos they're playing. I watched some of the PvP videos, and also I catched up on everything else that I had to miss that they posted online YouTube. In fact, you can all find it there. But the PvP was the main thing I was looking for, and definitely waiting to see.
All right, well. I've managed to watch a couple of things. I want to at Guild Wars Live and at Guild Wars Insider or GW Insider. They've been providing us information this weekend, as well as GameBreaker TV, where I've gotten my information from the three of them essentially as we've gone over the weekend and gathered things together. Let's start off. We'll get PvP at the end. Let's go ahead and start off with hitting yesterday's panel. I don't have the video from yesterday's panel. It would have been boring just to watch. So you got extra talking. So I've jumped in and created slides and brought in their Q&A all together. So let's go ahead and jump into that. This is the wrong thing. Here we go. All right. So first off, from the panel, we brought up, they started discussing things. They didn't jump straight into Q&A. And they talked about their personal story, where choices determine your story, events balanced based on number of people you have with you. They have a sidekick system, which will scale down your character so you can play with a friend. And this makes me think I wonder if the system should be called the MiniMe System. Instead of bumping people up, this system is scaling you down. And this is the whole thing. They have the dynamic events, they have your personal stories, all these choices, but the unique thing that came out of this was this idea that you are scaled down in the system as opposed to them being scaled up, which makes more sense. I would say. So what do you think about that? You're level 80 and all of a sudden you've been scaled down to a level 2 or level 13 or level 14. What are your thoughts on that?
That definitely will provide a different gameplay. You know, usually you're scaled up and your abilities are weakened. I wonder what's going to happen, though, if you lose abilities, or if it's just going to have all your abilities levels scaled down. But that way you can go back and you can help your friend do old content. You can help them make a new character to help them play through the storyline again. Or you're not rushing them through, you're still experiencing the game with them without the hassle of having to make a new character. And especially when you've used up all your character slots. That's another big factor as well.
Yeah, and it is a bit interesting, and I'll get into it more later. They've gone over it. For those of you who might be having issues in chat, I did remove the restriction on Justin.tv, so you can go to justin.tv/jkkennedy, and that will load you up as well, and you can switch the resolution there if it's not letting you on Twitch. Right. So yeah, the scale down is an interesting mechanic. It's gonna cause a difference. I mean, we've had in Champions Online and other games you've been able to sidekick somebody and they bump up to your level. But that always brought the problems with they weren't on information you're on. They weren't on quest you were on. So the idea of scaling you down now seems like a pretty smart system. Let's go ahead and move on to the next part, though. So we have where they work together, and this is like their idea. They're talking about their idea in the game. So typical MMOs have kill stealing, or first hit gets the reward. Guild Wars 2 wants you to help each other out. Participating in killing a monster gives your own experience and own role in the loot table. You no longer have to cry at night about losing that experience. So I mean, seems pretty good. You can go in. It's no longer your team going, "Stay the heck away from me. This is our experience. This is his experience. This is for us. This is for them." Each person just they participate. They get their experience. They get their item. They get their loot table. What do you think?
This is something I actually really like because before, I don't want to bring up World of Warcraft, but it's the most generic one people know of. You're questing, you're killing some mobs, and all of a sudden, some other guy starts aggroing right before you do, and you don't get any of the loot, you don't get any of the experience because the mob's locked off to you. This way, it actually kind of supports the idea that you should be working as a team, you can help a stranger, and it'll be mutually beneficial, where it's not competitive all the time when you're trying to level up. Or just enjoy the game, in PvE.
Yeah, I think it also allows it not to be so bad at the point where someone sees that you need their help and you can jump in without worrying about that person freaking out because you stole their mob. And someone's starting to scream at you that you're some little 12-year-old goal and just screaming at you that you stole their loot or stole their experience and kind of ruins your gameplay. So this is a bit helpful. I'm not sure in the long run there's no competitiveness for the experience, so enjoy your game. I mean, they are trying to create a community, it sounds like. All right.
It was,
All right, so this was interesting. Um, they went ahead and jumped into it themselves about their PvP system, and what they have is sort of like a server browser PvP. They don't. They brought up the comment that you don't want to kill faceless people; you want to kill people you know. And I mean, I have to admit, I'd like to go into a game and kill you rather than some random person and be able to gloat about it to you next time I talk to you.
thanks.
So, hey,
Like how-
1 out of the 10 times, it's got to happen sometimes. So what they're saying is you'll be able to pick the server you play PvP on, and it's sort of like a list of games. They said it would be similar to like TF2. You have a list of games you can participate so that you can fight with and against the same people each time, or find new people. That way you can get a more familiar setting with your PvP, and it's not just so much random, unenjoyable games of stupidity.
Yeah, and this also kind of reminds me, you're fighting someone, and let's say, I guess I bring up other games, but we played Darkfall together, and you would see one of the top players that have been boasting on the forums how awesome they were, and when you just finally take them down, there's something more gratifying than that in the entire world. I can definitely say that.
Yeah, and I think it brings into this whole esport scene idea that they're trying to get for. They've talked a little bit about esport talking in this, but they haven't gone too big, and no MMORPG that we know of to this date has gotten strongly into the esports scene with huge amounts of tournaments. Guild Wars 1 had tournaments when they first started, and I think they're now trying to take that to the next level um, and going about it a different way. And we'll look at that again later when we look more at the PvP stuff. So now the cross-class combos. This is something very interesting. It says one player uses one skill and another player uses their skill to create a new effect. And they said players can be trying to create they're trying to create categories of combos that work together, and they provided some examples such as a guardian can lay a symbol on the ground and players can shoot through it, leap through it, etc., and it creates different effects. So different combinations of skills are going to create different effects within the game. Now, the first example that we saw of this is, I believe it was at maybe PAX East or maybe it was another one of their conventions. They're talking about where you could throw down, an elementalist might throw down a wall of fire across, and then you can shoot through it, and it will set your bullets aflame or whatever you're using aflame, and that will cause some extra damage. And that was just an interesting fact right there, but it looks like they're trying to go even deeper with it, where different skills create different effects, such as this guardian symbol. I mean, I don't even know what the effects they're talking about, but it's kind of be an explorable system to start off with. I'm sure later on information will be released, but what do you think about it?
Yeah, that was really cool, especially for PvP. People would lay a firewall, an elemental say, and then you would get a bunch of rangers stuff just shooting fire in, and you have all these like flame projectiles going everywhere, dealing extra, or in fact, I'm not sure if it's extra, but I'm assuming it would be, but at least fire damage going past some normal resistances. And that's another thing that they got rid of the dual classing. And sure, you could buff each other in Guild Wars 1, but now you can actually like physically see the environment and even end up using your enemies' environmental abilities, I suppose I should say.
Yeah, getting dual classes is now you just actually mix your classes together, working together. I think it creates a whole lot of a larger dynamic feeling. They're bringing the esports scene. A lot of times you see when it comes to like FPS games, everyone plays individually at times, and they do a little bit of work together. But I think this is to help create a larger working environment where with the people working together. So it should be quite additionally helpful there. Um, so they went straight into right after this their Shattered Trinity. I'm calling it Shattered Trinity. They just called it their Broken Trinity or whatever. But where it allows you to play who you want, and dungeons do not require specific structure. And finally, you can play with your friends and not X1 E4 TFJ that you found because he decided to be a healer and you needed a healer. So it goes into that whole dynamic that we talked about. It's no longer I must find one of this, one of this, one of this, or else we're gonna fail this dungeon epically and look like a bunch of idiots. It's pretty much play how you want, play with your friends, and enjoy the game how it's meant to be. Um, I mean, not much to say on that, but how do you think that's going to affect dungeons within the game?
Well, I think we did actually cover this episode 1 a little bit. Basically, though, you're going to be able to play what you want. Your friends are going to play what they want. You can just pick up someone if someone's missing from your normal, group time. And every class has their own job, and they have their different buffs and stuff, but you can probably still get away with it and able to complete your dynamic event with a very diverse group rather than being, you need a necessary amount of this many healers, this many tanks. If this tank dies, then you're all screwed. In this case, they're looking out for themselves. You're trying to support each other, and you see if your team is able to take down the monster that you're trying to take down.
Do you think, with this being a new mechanic in the MMO scene, that people are going to come over from previous games, MMOs they've played, and try to force that Trinity into the game themselves by telling people that they have to play like this, they have to play like this, and trying to force it and thinking that's the best way to play?
I think there'll certainly be some people that have that built in their mind that you need, a warrior, and you need ranged, you're going to need this kind of amount. But past games have shown us that you can do some pretty crazy stuff, and this game especially, the way it's just changed from previous games, there'll definitely be many more options. But yes, I can definitely see people thinking that they need a certain amount of group types or members in that group type.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that when we get to that point that that there are enough Guild Wars 2 fans out there, enough people with the right mind going, hey, you don't need to do this, and they'll eventually learn, and maybe it'll change the face of how gaming is done. We may see some changes coming along, so let's move on. All right, so next they jumped right into the dungeons following that, and this is people have been asking about dungeons in Guild Wars 2. What's the dungeons going to be like? And what they told us is that there are two types of dungeons that they have in the game, and they have their story mode dungeons, which the story mode would be a large meta story that is connected between all the dungeons and through your personal story and situations. And they are designed to be survivable by a good organized pug. So they are the general game experience with the story going along with it. Now, following that, they said they have what they call it an explorable mode. So it's the same dungeons, but these are the explorable mode version of it, which these are designed for after the story mode, after you complete the story mode part. And they said even in fact this story mode can affect and change the dungeon itself. So the dungeon can be changed by that story mode. They go in to add on the dungeons have multiple options to them, so they are not repetitive, i.e. they are dynamic. But they have also said that when they